Get in the car you came in. Let's roll, I shouted as our cars came out from the valet. We left immediately from the MGM parking lot and headed directly to Club 662. I was still appropriately dressed in my Ray Luca crime story suit since there was about to be a real-life crime story. We pulled into the back parking lot of Club 662, where the talent and VIPs entered. In front of the club, there was a long line of excited, drunk people waiting to enter the club. I planned to confront Suge. Hey, nigga, why the fuck y'all jump on my nephew? The ironic thing is, I had just seen Suge in Vegas the night before the fight. He and members of his death row crew were rolling in their Rolls Royces. We greeted each other and everything. What's up, big dog? What's up? We were both major players in the same game. Suge had the music industry, I had the streets. We both had the same boss. If Suge and them niggas had a beef with something Southside had done, Suge could have said something to me when he saw me that night. Instead, Suge and his boys committed the ultimate disrespect when they kicked and beat down my nephew, Baby Lane, in a video broadcast on news stations seen around the world. In case my diplomatic approach to resolving the situation didn't work, we had 3 vehicles, 3 to 4 people in each, ready to burn their asses up. My crew was do or die. All my young homies had already been shot at least once, so their street experience turned them into some stone cold killers. They had the mentality of, it's either them or me, and it ain't gonna be me. With solemn faces, we waited in complete silence in the back parking lot of Club 662 for more than an hour. Inside our vehicles, nobody took a drink. There was no weed, no music, not a peep. We were as grave as a heart attack. The only thing audible was niggas breathing and tense, throbbing heartbeats. There was no need for words. We all understood why we were there. We waited for an hour and a half, which felt more like 4 hours. I decided for us to get the fuck out of there. I called the homies on their phones. They're taking too damn long. Let's get fucked up. Move out. One by one, the drivers started their engines and slowly crept out of the back parking lot. Lucky for them, they never showed up, because it would have been like Al Capone's Valentine's Day Massacre if they had. One thing about our crew, when it was time to handle business, we handled it with the best of them. And when it was time to have fun, we did that too. It's not that we were over what had happened to Baby Lane. It's just we couldn't control when them niggas were going to show up. Waiting so long was stopping us from doing what we had gone to Vegas to do in the first place. Have a good time. Our next destination was the Carriage House, a Las Vegas hotel where we had rented a few rooms as a kickback spot. On the way to the Carriage House, we stopped by the liquor barn to buy some bottles of Dom Perignon Rose, and Cristal. As we were driving to the liquor barn, it became evident that the guys in the van with me were worried that Suge would get some of his police hitmen to come back and try to kill us if we went after them. "The police do hits for that nigga," one of them said. I remember thinking to myself, y'all shouldn't have jumped y'all punk asses in here if you're scared. Y'all know what we came here to do. C-Ray, who was one of my top salesmen and later became the first one to start snitching on niggas, was in the van with me, along with his cousin Trey and BMF's Big Meech out of Detroit. As we were loading up to leave the liquor barn, I took advantage of the chance to get away from them scary niggas in the van. I jumped in the front passenger seat of the Cadillac because I knew the niggas in the caddy wasn't with that bullshit. I pulled out the Glock that Zip gave me and tossed it in the back seat. Bubble Up did the driving. Baby Lane and Freaky were riding in the back. After our pit stop at the liquor barn, we continued towards the Carriage House. As we were driving, the 2 vehicles that were with us got caught at the traffic light. We kept rolling. A few blocks down, we were sitting at the light, and who the fuck did we see? The Death Row Caravan hit the corner with TUPAC hanging out of the window of a black luxury BMW waving to his fans. People on the streets were screaming, "Tupac, Tupac, we love you, Tupac." In unison, all of our heads turned. There them motherfuckers go right there. If Pac had not been hanging out of the window, we would have never seen him. Buster you, Buster you. Bubble Up busted a U-turn and hit the gutter lane on their asses. As they sat in traffic, we slowly rolled past the long line of luxury cars they had in their caravan. We were on a mission, looking into each one, until we pulled up to the front vehicle and found who we were seeking. Like two rams locking horns, Suge and I looked each other dead in the eye. Our eyes locked. The terrified expression on Suge's face read, "Damn, them niggas." No words exchanged. The time for talking had passed. The shit was about to go down. The next few seconds all happened so quickly. The shit was on. Tupac made an erratic move and began to reach down beneath his seat. It was the first and only time in my life that I could relate to the police command, "Keep your hands where I can see them." Instead, Pac pulled out a strap, and that's when the fireworks started. One of my guys from the back seat grabbed a Glock and started busting back. The first shot skinned Suge in his head. I thought the motherfucker was dead. I heard stories that Suge supposedly used Tupac as a shield when the bullets started flying, but that's some bullshit. Suge was already wounded. He was the first one that got touched. As the rounds continued flying, I dug down so that I wouldn't get hit. When the shooting stopped, we boned out and a white Chrysler Sebring full of young ladies was following us. Their window quickly got shot out, so they stopped. The interesting thing to me was, with all them rough-ass niggas they were supposed to have with them, none of them did a damn thing and tried to come after us. There were a lot of shots let off in both directions. I don't know why the Vegas police didn't check Tupac's hands for powder burns to see if he was shooting, because the car we were in was shot the fuck up. I don't understand why people act like Tupac was an angel. Shit, the nigga had busted on some off-duty cops in Atlanta a few years earlier, so he wasn't scared to bust. On top of that, by the time we rolled up, he had to know the person they jumped on in the casino was a Southside Crip, so they had to be on high alert. When the shots settled, a couple of people in our car had fragments and glass in their hair, but none of us had been hit. The Strip was in an uproar as police cars and ambulances raced to the scene. Somehow, Suge, instead of driving straight to Memorial Hospital, he did some studio gangster shit. He made a U-turn back onto the Las Vegas Strip. Confident that the death row crew and the police would be looking for the car that we were driving, we abandoned the car and got away from it quickly. In some shit you'd see on the Twilight Zone, we scurried to get to the other side of Las Vegas Boulevard. When we got to the middle divider, the light changed to red, and we had to wait on the median. As we were standing on the median, waiting to cross Las Vegas Boulevard, two ambulances passed by right in front of where we were standing with their sirens blaring. The first ambulance passed by with Tupac in it and the medics working frantically to provide medical attention. A second one, not too far behind, had Suge in it. There we were, looking right into the ambulances transporting Tupac and Suge to Memorial Hospital. Everyone knows the rest of the story, as 6 days later, Tupac died as a result of his injuries. The moral of the story? Real gangsters are nothing to fuck with. It's a ruthless way of life, one that I've lived for the majority of my life. Some gangster rappers have glamorized and glorified the life like it's cool and something to strive for. They have a lot of people's minds twisted. The truth of the matter is, gangbanging and acting like a thug ain't no joke. These street wars taking place in urban communities around the country are as real as the wars that U.S. troops are engaged in around the world. In some cases, the streets' body counts are even higher. For us, Vegas was another day at the office. It may sound cold-hearted, but from a street perspective, the killings of Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls would be considered nothing more than collateral damage. As a result, the hip-hop world has lost two of its most talented and revered musical artists and icons. At this point in my life, I can say that I have a deep sense of remorse for what happened to Tupac. He was a talented artist with tons of potential to impact the world. I hate that Tupac's family, friends, and fans, especially his mother, Afeni Shakur, had to go through the pain of losing her son. It's terrible losing people like that. I know that pain too well. However, I stand firm on the point that Tupac, Suge Knight, and the rest of those niggas didn't have any business putting their hands on my beloved nephew, Baby Lane. Period. Them jumping on my nephew gave us the ultimate green light to do something to their ass. Tupac chose the wrong game to play and the wrong niggas to play with. Suge and them should have done a better job of protecting that dude because they knew who the fuck we were and the kind of shit we were capable of. Tupac may not have known, but Suge and his peeps definitely knew. Tupac was a guppy that got swallowed up by some ferocious sharks. He shouldn't have ever got involved in that bullshit of trying to be a thug. Southside Crips earned some stripes on the collar from street niggas due to the Tupac shooting. But it generated too much attention and put us under a microscope by law enforcement that would not cease and eventually brought us down. It was a big-time loss for everybody involved. Aftermath. When we made it back to the hotel, we popped our bottles and partied like it was any other night. Of course, someone suggested that we pour out a little for Tupac, which we did, and smoked our weed like we had planned to do in the first place. Instead of being with us, C-Ray was still out partying at the MGM Hotel Club. Someone from another Crip set pulled his coat. "Nigga, you better get the fuck up out of here. You ain't heard what your homeboys just did?" C-Ray left the club and came over to the carriage house once he found out something went down. "What happened, y'all?" "Nigga, we don't know nothing," I was thinking. "We know you're gonna snitch, nigga." And I was right. That nigga eventually did snitch. After partying most of the night in Vegas, we left the next morning. We rolled by and scooped up the Cadillac from where we had ditched it the night before. The night of the shooting, the gun was placed on one of the tires of the Cadillac. But when we went back for the car the next morning, the gun wasn't there. We jumped on the freeway and headed back home to Compton. I rode back with my wife and nephew in the same rental car. One of the homies drove the caddy, and we were following on their tail the whole time. At one point, when we got around the rest area in Barstow, a white San Bernardino sheriff car followed us for about 10 miles before turning off. During the drive home, I laced Baby Lane with the game. Don't tell nobody what happened. Not even your mama. Don't say a motherfucking thing. Sure enough, when we made it home, the streets were spooked. Inquiring minds wanted to know, what happened in Vegas? Nothing was our only reply. Once we got back to Compton, the caddy sat for a couple of days. Then we took it to the paint shop to be painted and cleaned out before returning it to the rental car place. By then, it was too late for any forensics to be accurate and reliable. The Sunday we returned was one busy day. When we got home, we watched some of the news reports. My uncle, who was a stone-hard gangster, came over early that morning with the newspaper and some coffee. I was in my back house, and he stormed in. "Nephew, this nigga done told on 2 niggas at one time." "Who?" "Man, you read this shit Suge said in this article?" He read part of the article out loud. "KEEFE D's nephew." My uncle concluded, "If that ain't dry snitching, I don't know what is. He's trying to take down 2 motherfuckers at the same time." With that first newspaper article, Suge was essentially telling on Baby Lane and me. Suge could have said my little brother's nephew, but instead he used my name, KEEFE D's nephew. I've seen Suge a few times once I got out of the pen. The first time was when the Lakers were playing the New Jersey Nets, and my older brother had bought some tickets. The halfway house I was staying at permitted me to go with my brother to the game. While I was there getting hot dogs, I saw Suge with 3 or 4 white guys and 3 brothers. When the motherfucker saw me, he looked like he was scared straight. He came over to where I was. "What's up, homie? I'm glad you stayed strong for me, man. All them niggas from my neighborhood." I wanted to say, "You the first one, bitch." I started to hate watching MTV during that time, because it seemed like every hour on the hour, MTV would report. Rapper TUPAC Shakur is in critical condition. Reports indicate that Crips out of California, KEEFE D's nephew. I was like, God damn, why they keep using my name? That fucked me up when some of the early reports were using my name. That information had to come from SUGE, since he was the only one who could have known. That same day, my new Colombian plug, JC's little brother, called. He was usually really laid back, but this time there was urgency in his voice. Meet me at the Chevron over at El Segundo in Sepulveda, he said. When I pulled into the gas station, he walked up to my car, faster than usual, with this scared look on his face and asked, Man, was that y'all? Yeah. Come on, homie. You're supposed to be smarter than that. We have a multi-million-dollar business. You're tripping. His words of disappointment were piercing, mainly because he was right. I was tripping. I did the same dumbass shit I said SUGE shouldn't have been doing. I had risen out of gangbanging and elevated to the level where I was running a multi-million-dollar business. SUGE did his with the record company. I did mine illegally in the streets. Little JC continued, I'm out of here. I'm not going down with y'all. Y'all are going to jail. He was a smart dude, and the next day, he was on an airplane on his way back to Colombia. At the time little JC left, I was balling, getting 300 kilos a month from him at $10,000 a piece, selling them locally for $13,000 to $14,000, and selling them out of town for $25,000. Little JC leaving the country put me out the dope game for a while. At about 3 o'clock Monday afternoon, the action picked up when one of the leaders of the gangbangers section of our hood got shot 7 times in the stomach in front of the neighborhood liquor store. Somebody from the other side did the shooting. That first Monday afternoon shooting raised the alarm in our hood. I threw a meeting after it happened and told the youngsters to handle the young niggas from the rival neighborhood. We, the older dudes, would deal with the big motherfuckers. After that, a brutal month-long gang war broke out between our two factions. Them young niggas from our set went crazy on the Bloods. Their side lost about 6 people, and we lost 1. We had a couple of homies get wounded. SUGE's hands weren't clean. He participated in beating the shit out of my nephew, so we went after SUGE after the war broke out too. SUGE spared his own life by not staying at his spot in the valley. Once the war broke out, he left and stayed out of town for a while. I know because we were on his bumper. He was unaware that we were staking out his house. We had a little hideaway spot out in Studio City, and we were going out there every night looking for them niggas. We knew where he lived because we had people who worked with the phone company, with the DMV, and females who worked at the courthouse, so it was easy for us to get an address. Southside had homies who were Samoan, Mexican, and white. We were not just blacks. My next-door neighbors were 2 white boys, gangsters that would blow the noodles out your head. We had one of the white boys dressed up in a UPS uniform, knocking at the door of SUGE's studio. We gave another white boy a buzz cut and dressed him up so that he looked like a cop. If SUGE had answered that door, his ass was ours. By 4 p.m., the soldiers was on my street, strapped up and ready to begin our search and destroy mission. By 4:10 p.m., Reggie Wright Sr., who was the captain of the 4 o'clock shift for the Compton Police Department, was at my house. I guess he finished his orientation with his officers real quick. Then that nigga must have jumped in his squad car and came straight over to my house. His son, Reggie Wright Jr., was the head of death row security. And with the battle that was going down in the streets of Compton, Reggie Sr. was concerned about his son's safety. He came flying down the street in a Compton police car, ran the stop sign, pulled up on the wrong side of the road, and hit the brakes. He jumped out of his car and left the door wide open. Then he started screaming, "Let me tell you something, KEEFE D. If you motherfuckers kill my son, it's gonna be hell to pay." I just looked at him like he was stupid. "You niggas kill my son and the gloves are coming off." "The fuck is you talking about?" "Nigga, please." He yelled back, "I'm just telling you, motherfucker." Then he jumped back in his police car and sped off. Once he left, I had to let a few of the homies know. We might have to crack some police heads. They will kill for that nigga SUGE. The proof was in the pudding when Captain Wright came over with that threat. He made it clear whose side he was on. Now, both Reggie Wright Sr. and his son, Reggie Jr., have been charged with federal drug trafficking and money laundering charges. Them niggas have been dirty for years, and it finally caught up with them. About an hour later, some of Compton's dirtiest, Sergeant Reynolds and his crew, came and raided our houses. During the 92 riots, there was a Crip set that broke into an Army surplus store and took all of their guns. They sold me 2 crates of guns for $3,600 per crate. There were 90 guns in each crate. Macs, Glocks, AK-47s. We put in a lot of work with those guns. My homies used them motherfuckers up, wearing people's ass out. During the raids, they took a large amount of our guns, attempting to leave us butt naked. I sent word with Zip to tell Puffy to send us some cash so we could get us some more guns. But that never happened. Luckily, because of my Colombian connection, we had a new crate of firearms the next fucking day. The streets were hot. The third day after getting back from Vegas, a few of us met with Zip at LA Hot Wings near 3rd Street and La Brea. While we were meeting with Zip, Biggie's wife, Faith, called him. Then a little after that, Puffy called Zip and asked, "Was that us?" I didn't say a motherfucking thing. A few weeks later, C-Ray's next-door neighbor got killed. The dude wasn't from Southside, but he grew up in our neighborhood. He worked as a Compton Unified School police officer and also volunteered with the Compton Police. The guy was on his way to work and to drop his daughter off at school. He put his daughter in the car, and when he walked around to get in the vehicle, a red car came around the corner. They shot him 35 times with an AK-47. That hit was meant for C-Ray, but they got the wrong person. After that failed hit, C-Ray decided to start working with the police and became a confidential informant. One day, I was over in the Jordan Downs projects chilling, and C-Ray came over and said, "KEEFE D, Suge got a hit out on you, me, and Little Dog." I could hear the nervousness in his voice. "Me, you, and Little Dog? Yeah, for 100,000. Nigga, how you know that?" "I'm just telling you, dog." C-Ray pissed me off with what he said, so I told him, "Wherever you got that shit from, you tell that nigga that I'll hit Suge for free, motherfucker. Wouldn't cost a dime to hit his punk ass." Those niggas knew I wasn't any joke. I'm from the streets for real. Them niggas were with that record company shit. We were crippin' for real. We were not faking. Meanwhile, I was wondering, where did C-Ray get that information? Right before Suge was about to go to court for violating his parole for his part in the casino beating of my nephew, I received a call from Baby Lane, who was up in our lawyer Edie Fall's office. Come up here and bring 2 guns. Edie Fall is from Gambia and made a lot of money off of our family from dealing with my nephew and me. Bring 2 guns? Yeah, come up here as soon as you can. The Reaper and I rushed up to Edie Fall's office. When we arrived and entered the office, we saw Compton Police Captain Reggie Wright Sr. and Compton Police Sergeant Reynolds sitting in the waiting area with Suge Knight. That was an incredibly uncomfortable and awkward couple of minutes while we all occupied the same small space. That was the reason Baby Lane told me to bring 2 guns, just in case. The 3 of them were there to meet with Baby Lane before Suge's probation violation hearing in an attempt to keep Suge from going to jail. They offered to pay Baby Lane $60,000 for him to appear in court and say that Suge didn't kick him in the casino. Baby Lane went to court and said that shit too, and got paid the $60,000. But the judge in the case ruled that Suge was an active participant in the attack anyway. Once Baby Lane received that payment, the war between our 2 functions chilled. The thing that fucked me up was to see both a captain and a sergeant from the Compton Police Department in there with Suge. That just confirmed what we already knew. Suge had crooked-ass police on his payroll. We weren't competing against regular street niggas like us. Suge's hitmen were the police. Those niggas carried badges and guns and could pull us over and were licensed to blow our brains out. From the Compton PD, Suge had Captain Reggie Wright Sr., Reggie Wright Jr., and Sergeant Reynolds. From LAPD's scandalous Rampart division, he had Rafael Perez and David Mack, both of whom were Suge's homeboys, blood niggas. Almost all of them have been in the newspapers for being rogue cops and connected to Suge. What most people don't know is that they were putting hits down for that nigga. Over the years, they bumped off a few of our people. I have strong reason to believe my buddy FL was one of their victims. I'm lucky to be alive. Even though the beef between our two factions quieted down, the funk wasn't over. Retaliation from the other side was a necessity. It was just a matter of who they were going to go after. They chose Bad Boy.